Perhaps there is no better day than springtime in Colorado. And if you love the great outdoors,
wider, 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 there you go.
Then a day at the racetrack with the Rockies as a backdrop is not bad at all.
So you've got the asphalt.
And on this typical Saturday morning,
you've got the smell of the rubber burning.
At the Daytona track, folks who've ever experienced NASCAR fever.
It's something that you can't duplicate anywhere else.
Can relate to this.
You get a bunch of these carts out there and
go-karts buzzing.
And they sound like a bunch of angry honeybees chasing each other. But there's something about that sound too.
They're a mini version of the big-time racetrack.
They're small, they run around really, really fast, and they buzz.
And Scott Orr's passion,
I'm a big NASCAR racing fan,
is racing.
And make no mistake about it, the thing goes pretty fast. This car can get up to 60, 70 miles an hour when we get it set up right.
Scott is a crew chief for Left Field Motorsports.
One of the wives came up with it because one day we thought of this and it just came out of left field.
Scott, along with his driver, Brian Tetzler,
I think the only times I got really loose,
is also his best friend.
This gives me the chance to be the mechanic, to be the crew chief, to be the guy in charge, who makes everything work right in the background.
Firing up the engine.
We have to get up to about 120 degrees before we do anything else.
You'll notice something else.
This is hard to do with my hand shaking.
Scott has Parkinson's disease.
a lot of pain, you know.
So now he's in a different competition.
I could tell by the end of the day he was really hurting, you know. The tremors were really bothering him. The physical exertion on his arm was getting really bad.
His body racing towards a different finish line.
Parkinson's is a degenerative brain disease without a cure.
And he's opening up a window to let us peek inside his life, what it's like to live with Parkinson's and not having control over your body.
We all want attention, but we want it on our own terms. And this takes away your ability to decide whether you get attention or not.
In his daily life, never wanting the spotlight.
I've always been the guy behind the scenes.
Scott's held a lot of jobs in TV. Many years ago, a photographer, covering different aspects of news for a quarter of a century, even as a helicopter pilot.
I used to fly helicopters, and nobody wants a pilot named Shaky to be flying a helicopter.
We all met Scott when he started at News 2. His racing buddy Brian, also a producer at the station.
I've never known Scott without it.
Scott's now the quiet face behind the News 2 website.
I put all that on the website myself, so that means that I write stories.
As our interactive news producer.
Then I also cut and paste the video that we put on the air so that people can look at the stories online.
But his Parkinson's has its challenges.
You tend to compensate by using the other hand. You have to read very carefully to make sure that you haven't made a typo that you've left by accident. I have to aim carefully these days.
Requiring extra time to make sure he's accurate. There are other complications as well.
I lean on this arm sometimes because it makes some of the tremors easier to control, but in the process of doing that, I've actually worn through the top of my desk.
Passionate about his job.
It takes me longer, but I'm still a newsman.
It was several years ago, 4 years to be exact, when the newsroom gang noticed his hand started shaking.
When I was 38, I was actually sitting at work in a newsroom at a desk, and I noticed my left hand was shaking.
Thinking it was just stress.
It didn't shake constantly. It went away after a while.
When it kept coming back.
Oh, I'm under a lot of stress. Maybe I should go to a doctor.
So he went to his regular doctor to get something to relax.
He did all these things with my hand and moved my hand around and felt my elbow and all this. He walks out, he comes back, and he says, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you, I think you have Parkinson's disease."
Hearing the news that would change his life, his perception about life forever.
I was floored. First of all, you're not supposed to hear that from just your average everyday doctor.
His wife and support system, Shannon, shocked.
My mother's gotten a frequent phone call or email.
His parents from Arizona, floored.
Totally devastating. We probably cried on the phone for close to 3 hours. It just tore us apart.
At first, Scott tried to hide it.
And it's all vanity. You learn the longer you have it, you're not really hiding anything. People know.
But the symptoms.
Sometimes they'll say something, and they'll say, "Oh, what do you have?"
And the pain are all too real.
The muscles are working so hard that you start to have pain in your forearm and your wrists.
Scott's now preparing for life-changing brain surgery with grave risks.
If I'm willing to essentially risk death, which is kind of dramatizing it, maybe that gives you an idea of how important it is to me to not be this way.
A risk he's willing to take for a better life.